Oh, hey, Anthony, this question came up earlier, and so this is definitely for you. Questions about therapeutic applications of the automatic imagination model. Do you want to take that on?
Yeah, I can. And I'll just clarify what's meant by that. When I wrote my little book, as you'll know if you've read it, I studiously sidestep committing to any theory because none of them are entirely satisfactory to me. But I certainly operated in the therapy work I do from a kind of Ericksonian perspective, a conscious and an unconscious, and the induction was an effort to kind of get to that unconscious or get the bit that might be getting in the way out of the way. I don't really believe in that as a from the point of view of science and what might be real. I don't really believe that that's a good description of what hypnosis is or how it works. And a few years back now, about 2011, was the first time I'd really settled on a theory of hypnosis, and kind of went full circle in that I am now very much of the view that sleep and trance and depth are suggestions. That's it. They're not a prerequisite for us doing hypnosis. They're just the same as magnets and lighter and stuck. So I have become, if you like, a non-statist, someone who doesn't see state as being an important part of hypnosis, other than something we might suggest. However, that doesn't mean that I think it's all acting or playing along, because I've seen the effects, from pain control to significant changes in people, and I just don't believe you can act that the subject can generally act well. So where I've landed is actually a point of view that I ignored for a long time, which is, I guess, best described as the cognitive behavioral view of hypnosis. It's been developed. It's been developed by Spanos, Chavez, more recently, I guess, by Irving Kirsch, who's a big kind of hero of ours. So the AI model accepts that your personal reality in any given moment is a fiction. It feels reliable. May feel the same as it did yesterday, but it's largely imagined. And the important bit is your relationship to it. So when we kind of cut away everything that wasn't fundamental to hypnosis, and for me that meant knocking over every sacred pillar of hypnosis, I was worried that nothing would be left, actually. But when we kind of got to the bottom of it, we kind of concluded that it's very much about your relationship to this reality or a behavior. And when we boiled that down, if you like, our spectrum to illustrate this relationship might be thought of as an accompanying sense of control that goes all the way through to an accompanying sense of being completely automatic or involuntary. So you could frame people's problems in this way. Very often people come in with a behavior that feels automatic. They don't feel like they have any control. Or if it's a sports person, perhaps they want to get flow and get in the zone, and they want to stop thinking. So hypnotic effects, for me, if I was to define something as hypnotic, this is where I'd look to the accompanying sense of involuntariness. This is often called the classic suggestion effect, and the reason we settled on it is it's the one thing that unites every school of hypnotism, in that the result of suggestion, in fact, we could even define suggestion with this term as opposed to an instruction, is that it's there is a cue within every suggestion that you will experience this with a sense of involuntariness. Now, that's kind of the longhand version. It might be when I snap my fingers, your arm is going to begin to lift. It may be, every time you hear this, you'll laugh even more. There we go. It's going to get funnier and funnier, even the thought of trying to keep that down. So the point is, that's all I'm trying to do with hypnosis. That's all I'm trying to do in therapy. So the question was about how do I apply this model in therapy? And, I've been using a system of therapy, the component parts of which you'd all be familiar with, direct suggestion, metaphor, rewind techniques, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some simple applications. First off, I want to actively lean on the result and encourage it to become automatic. That kind of sounds obvious. And again, you'll probably already have phrases that do this. But things like, you'll be looking back to now, thinking about something else entirely. You're going to wonder what's got into you. And so I'll start to actively pile in suggestions to what may just sound like future pacing. You're going to be out there as a non-smoker, but the suggestions are very targeted toward how you will relate to that result. So that's the first thing I'd say about that. Another thing we've had a lot of success with, and this is really we offered a training a couple of times in automatic imagination. My dad came on that training. He's been a hypnotherapist for 25 years and seen 30,000 people. And he's very much a trance guy, as we both were. He puts people in it. They look like they're in it. They respond afterwards like they're in it. I just happen to believe that's a suggestion. But his point was very, very simple. It was just to point out when you revisit, let's say, it doesn't even really need to be a memory, but your relationship to the problem, that you can really just point at the fact that this is just imagination. And that now they remember it's imagined, they can stop imagining that. They can imagine something else entirely. And this has an almost instant effect sometimes, almost like a bubble bursting of, as other techniques do. But really, it helps dissociate the person from the problem and then actually look at the problem, not even as the memory, not as the detail, not as the fallout from that event, but instead just like something else you've been remembering, piecing together automatically for the rest of your life. The tail end of us coming up with automatic imagination really got us questioning things, beyond just what is hypnosis and how does it work, which are quite common conversations now about free will, decision making, identity, all this kind of stuff. Do you know what you were thinking this time yesterday? I mean, could you hope to know that?
No, not accurately.
What about 3.5 minutes ago? Have you any idea what thoughts were in your mind?
I might come a little bit closer with that one.
But you'd still be guessing. What about
I'd be
3
guessing.
thoughts from now, Sean? I mean, it begs the question, do you even do thinking? Or do you just experience thought? So my point, if I want to kind of get someone to change their relationship to something they've been presenting to me in a discussion, I may kind of ask questions like this to kind of loosen them up a little bit. And then just say, well, what gives you so much confidence, anything about the reality of what was going on 30 years ago or whenever it was. So I try to, I don't know, I guess it's added to a kind of part of my content-free arsenal, and I do much of my work, not completely content-free. There's still some exchange about the problem and, what the change will mean to them and so on. But I just like to kind of point out the frailty of these things they seem very reliant and think are very reliable, and then kind of point the same lens on the problem itself. And I find that often does it damage that it can't recover from. Yeah. Sorry about all the violent metaphors and analogies. I'm a very peaceful person.
It's okay.
I just want to quickly jump back to